Hi there, it's Polly here with my companion, Mr. Snoots, Amy, Far Traveller Snoots, and we are in northern Laos, taking a slow boat down the Mekong River, which is what you see behind me. Focus. And I waited for this terribly colonial setting because I have some miniatures rules that I've just been absolutely waiting to run through for you. The Sword and the Flame. What I have here is the 1999 20th anniversary edition. So the actual rules were originally a 1979 set. There was going to be a 40th anniversary edition. Unfortunately, the designer Larry Blom passed away, which is a shame because he was a great force in early game design for miniatures. However, the game has been left in the care of his family, and we now have his family still operating the website. This is sergeants3.com, sergeantsnumber3.com. Those of you who've seen the old Gunga Din movie will understand why. So, the Sword and the Flame. It is a set of miniatures rules that was designed for the colonial period. So, its initial concept was that it would be for Zulu Wars, the Sudan Wars, First Boer War, those sorts of things. However, the framework of the rules is so robust and the game so easy to do and so easy to modify that it has remained a force to be reckoned with. It is still played and is still loved and is still enjoyed by a considerable games community. And this community has produced masses of small booklet modifications that have adapted this to all kinds of different periods and nationalities, and I mean all kinds. So there are versions for American Civil War, there are versions for the French and Indian Wars in the Americas, Hurons and Mohawks and all that kind of jazz. But there's also ones for Gauls versus Romans, or Crusaders versus Saracens, Vikings, Dark Ages, the Texas Rebellion against Mexico, you remember the Alamo, all that kind of stuff. French Foreign Legion in the 19th century and early 20th century, Back of Beyond Wars in the early 20th century. All that sort of thing are here and done beautifully, and that's the strength of the rules. They adapt so well because they have a really good, robust, simple structure and an easygoing system for play. So, how these work. Whee! Hang on, drinks. Whoops. Taxi. Immediately. That's right, the Mekong will drink that up. So, how these things work? Well, they use a number of different random generators. So, you'll need a bucket load of D20s, you'll need a bucket load of 6-sided dice, and you are going to need an ordinary deck of playing cards. For firing, it's done using D20s. Most of the systems are done using a D6, and the turn sequencing is done using a deck of cards. However, before we get to do that, one of the most charming things about these rules is that they were set up as an introduction for new wargamers to the whole concept of gaming. So they have a really delightful potted history of the period and of the different wars and so on that they're covering. So first off, the name, Sword and the Flame, right? So this comes from a good old Rudyard Kipling poem. Walk wide the widow o' Windsor, for half a creation she owns. We fought her the same, with a sword and a flame, and we've salted it down with our bones. So you'll get your different periods, and they're usually Kiplinged off. They'll start with a decent Kipling quote, so you'll get the dervish one. Oh, what's that? So here's to you, Fuzzy Wuzzy, with your home in the Sudan. You're a benighted heathen, but you're a first-class fighting man. And here's to you, Fuzzy Wuzzy, with your Eric head of hair. You big black bounding bugger, for your broker British square. So, all of this sort of thing. But they have little painting guides with silhouettes. So for the British troops, Here's how you paint. Guide on if you hadn't done it before. How to paint. Do your flesh areas first. Build outwards. Now you want to do your trousers. Now you want to do your tunic down because that will cover part of the trousers. All these sorts of things. So this was great for a beginning gamer to teach you how to paint figures and how to go. Now the scale's fairly small. They're designed for a handful of companies a side, and a company tends to be about 15 men, or a dozen cavalry, or a gun has like half a dozen crew. So in this day and age, even in lead, pretty cheap to play, but with plastics and so on available now, great. You can get into this for very little money, which was one of its charms. There's beautiful guides on how to make terrain and so on as well, and what the dominant terrain was in different areas. Pardon me, there's just a very large barge going by. Why? Because it's the Mekong, that's why. So it was, to me, as a beginning gamer back in 1979, invaluable, but a valuable resource for beginning gamers now, and charming, just charming. This is beautiful to see, and it's useful to this day. So great introduction there, gives you potted histories, a rundown on the warfare, a rundown on the weapons, a rundown brief on each of the wars and what the different troops are. Now, how the game functions. Turn sequence, you begin with movement. You shuffle an ordinary deck of cards. Earproofs of cards. Definitely. So, one side, usually British are red, other is black, and what you do is turn over a card. Depending on the colour of unit that you've turned up, red will move on red cards, black will move on red cards. When your card is turned, you either move a unit or declare that that unit will not move during that turn. So the low-tech foes, your dervishes, your Zulus, etc., they will usually massively outnumber the high-tech. So they've got more guys on the ground. So pretty soon you'll find the high-tech guys have done their movement, and you've got a lot more movement coming from the low-tech foes. So they do get the opportunity to race around the flanks, burst out of dead ground, all this sort of stuff. So it can get, can be a bit dicey. Hairy blighters, these folks, but but after all, stirring deeds what won the empire. Now, firing will come next. However, I'll just say all movement in this game is done on random dice rolls. So you roll a random number of dice and you'll move that many inches. If you are in what counts as rough terrain for you, then you will drop the highest dice that you roll. So pretty simple, but it does give you variable movement. You're not keeping nice neat lines, because after all, you're out in the boondocks and struggling through the Afghan hills. You're not on parade ground. It does give you a nice irregular feel to it. Obviously, a lot of the non-European guys can really hair along. If you charge, you roll extra dice. However, you do roll to see if you get stragglers, and so you can sort of scatter your guys a little bit if you charge around too swiftly. Firing is done using D20 and a bucket load of them. Every figure that is eligible to fire rolls a D20. Now you've got a target class, so it's easier to hit packed masses of enemies. It is harder to hit guys who are in hard cover or concealed. Fair enough. D20, roll low. Low is good. Now, any hits that you get, you then pull a card from the card deck. Now, if you draw an ace, it's hit a leader figure, and if or the highest ranked kind of leader figure. There's another suit, I think it might be diamonds. You get a higher value target. Oh no, it's aces and queens. Ace, king, queen. Kings and queens, you get a higher value target. So, for instance, you might have some native units that have got some riflemen and some spearsmen. So you can choose to hit the rifleman as a higher value target if you wish. But Anything that comes up a heart, that figure is dead, removed from play. Any other score, they are wounded, and they stay in place. You can send wounded back to the rear and so on, escorted by unwounded people. Now, the reason you do that is if you are European and the native blighters get you, they'll kill the wounded, and that does have a morale effect on your guys. But also the native blighters, and in fact Europeans as well, you can actually interrogate prisoners if you catch wounded guys, and there's a chance that they might reveal if you have things like a secret flank march, or if you have troops in ambush hidden in gullies, those sorts of things. So okay, fair enough. So look after the wounded. When you're wounded and lying on Afghan's plains and the women come out to pick through the remains, just roll on your rifle and blow out your brains. Go to your god as a soldier. Cheerful period, wasn't it? Anyway, so you're rolling to hit, convert, etc. Figures are removed as you accrue casualties. This is one figure equals one guy. So if you lose 3 guys, remove 3 figures from your unit. Huzzah! There is now a melee phase. Melees are done on a d6. Essentially, opposing figures will each roll d6. There are some modifiers like did you charge, are you mounted, etc, etc. Whichever one gets the highest score wins. I think if you win by like more than 1 point, you kill the other guy. Otherwise, you drive them back. Now, you kind of try and pair up one-on-one as much as possible. If there's any extra guys, they can assist in some of these combats. So, you do get a little assist happening. This is all good. Aha, we have another barge. So again, you're going to need a couple of handfuls of 6-sided dice for this. We'll let the barge go past. A lot of traffic for somewhere that's literally the middle of smacking nowhere. But in any case, so there's some cute little extra rules. The VC rule: if you have a melee and the British win, but there's only one British survivor, that figure has a chance of winning the VC. You roll a little thing. Officers have a slightly higher chance than enlisted men, and if you're playing a campaign and so on, that character will get some bonuses later on, so great. And if you're playing like the French Foreign Legionman, La Légion d'Étranger, you have a chance for that. So there's some fun roleplay kind of stuff. Now, there's morale rules. If you are trying to charge someone, you have to roll to see if you charge. It's a d6. You'll do it, and you have a much higher chance if there's a leader present. British are pretty solid, and some of the more kind of violent sorts like dervishes are pretty solid. If you are charged, you have to see if you take the charge, and again, if there's a leader present, for British and so on, it's pretty solid. However, if your leaders are gone, the troops become less steady, so that's the reason to take them out. If units take too many casualties, you also do a d6 roll, and they might start, advancing to the rear. So, very simple, very robust. There are different charts for firing now, and for melee, depending on who and what you are. So you'll have a little army list, and it's like British regulars, British irregular troops, British colonial auxiliaries, British dismounted cavalry and so on, and you'll have all of their different firing factors and whatever bonuses they get in melee. And this varies, from conflict to conflict, and as the equipment changes, and that's what makes this game so flexible. So these little, I'll just show you. So this is what the little supplements look like. It's just a little thin book that some literally fans have done, and they're all available on the site. So if you really want to play like American Civil War skirmishes, they'll have them there, and they'll have the different troop types and the different equipment sorts all there. But if you want to play Conquistadors versus Aztecs, or if you really feel like playing, Robin Hood, Sheriff of Nottingham versus Robin Hood's band, or you want to play, more Mohawks and so on versus British and American colonials, each of these has the little thing with their factors, and so as more or less advanced weapons, they'll have different factors at different ranges. So, as you get bold action comes in, they'll get a higher chance of hitting at shorter ranges and these sorts of things. So incredibly flexible, and that's, like I said, that's why they've survived. You can adapt them to anything. So cheap to play, incredibly adaptable to what you want to play, You can find enthusiasts for this everywhere, so plenty of opponents to play. And it has withstood the test of time, and has withstood it because of those very simple factors. As well as its charm, it's charmingly written, and it's a useful document and a great piece of game design. Here's to you, Larry. Thank you for the game. And you're remembered with love, and there are still people playing your game 50 years later. And for a gamer, what could be a better legacy than that, everyone? So, cheers, Larry. Here's to you, mate. Right, so anyway, we will continue doing reviews for you in some very strange places. Oh, don't fear for Mr. Snoots, by the way. He has his own pet carrier, and it travels in a slash-proof bag and never leaves me. Plus, frankly, he carries all of my documents with him, so, you know, I can't leave the country without him. By the way, if you've never been, get to Thailand. It is stunning, absolutely stunning place. Bright, joyous. The Thai people are amazing. The fashion. This is me in my hand-woven Western Provinces skirt. Oh yeah, I've been having fun. I have, in fact, purchased the entire Thai silk industry. Oh, that baggage is going to be expensive to get home. But Laos is looking interesting. It's looking very interesting. Different language, of course. So I'm having to relearn my hellos, goodbyes, thank yous, and excuse me's. What the hey? We are, after all veterans. So I will keep doing some reviews for you in great places. Do go take a look at Sword in the Flame. If you used to play, get back into it. If you haven't played, well worth your while, because it is literally such a playable piece of work and such a fantastic piece of games history. Sergeants3.com. There's also a Facebook page which is very, very active. People putting up their games, people putting up their rules mods, and opponent finders lists. Anyway, cheers everyone. If you like the videos, by all means like, subscribe, find me on Patreon, or search Northern Laos. So, from me and Mr. Snoots, bye!